Um, but there was some more information that came out because of it. Um, Scott also revealed that his let's see. So Scott talked about his departure from TNA and how it all came about. But I thought it was pretty, and we talked about that. So he basically continued to further validate a lot of things that we said here. So I'm not gonna really get into that. But he also said that Jimmy Jacobs and RD Evans are credited, or you can say blame, for how much television time he got. That they were consistently writing him onto TV. They were never supposed to have an authority figure. In fact, I remember them coming out and doing podcasts when they took over the company. Said, "Yeah, we're not going to do authority figures on TV." But sure enough, it didn't take too long for Jimmy Jacobs and RD Evans to start writing him into the TV show. And he said that his ego, it really fed off his ego, and he was happy to do it, and he had a lot of fun doing it. But I felt, and we talked about it pretty regularly, that he was overexposed on television. He very much for a while was like, if you just want to go by just overall minutes and overall and different and how many segments, he was probably the most visible TNA figure for like a 2-year period. And he is one of the few people that made his way over on to AEW television. When Christian Cage won the TNA World Title, Scott D'Amore was on commentary, and he was the one in the ring celebrating with him. Instead of putting a TNA wrestler in that spot, they put Scott D'Amore. And look, Scott D'Amore's a good television performer, and he's a good promo, and he's good on commentary. So it makes, like, I get it, but optics are important too. But yeah, he said he didn't want to be in TV at first, but once he got into it, he had a lot of fun. And the Bound for Glory promo, he said, was an impromptu promo, because Lance Storm thought that after they announced the return of TNA, that somebody should really say something, and that it should be Scott. And so he was encouraged to do that. Again, it didn't take much arm twisting, and he went out there and delivered a hell of a promo. But he also revealed that his Hard to Kill promo, no, not Hard to Kill, I'm sorry. It was the taping afterwards, the Snake Eyes taping, was the spur of the moment thing. It happened because Josh Alexander and Will Ospreay's match went a little too short, which is funny because I thought that match was kind of long, and that they needed to fill more TV time. So he knew at this point he was going to be fired. He found out 2 days before Hard to Kill. So after Snake Eyes was over, he went out there and delivered another promo that he calls his love letter to pro wrestling, because he thought that it might be his last promo ever, and that he really poured his heart into it. I also thought it was interesting, and I wonder if anybody else picked up on this. He talked about how Hard to Kill and Snake Eyes was very much looked like what his vision for TNA would be. But then during the Orlando tapings, it very much reverted back to Impact Wrestling, because that's what we said here. And he acknowledges that. Like, Hard to Kill look like what he wants the new TNA to look like. But the Kissimmee tapings was a very much like, okay, now we're back to just being Impact Wrestling. I thought the same thing, and he kind of hinted at that too. And then he also said that his offer to purchase a TNA, so it was reported $12 million. He didn't say this in the interview, but he said that he talked to an Anthem executive who wasn't involved with the wrestling side, and who was like, "Hey man, how did you get to that high of a number?" And Scott was like, he looked at the books, and he thought he was pretty confident that he could make his money back and then some with what he would have been able to do, but they just weren't interested in selling. I don't think they weren't interested in selling to him, but he said that their valuation was much higher than what his valuation was, and then he was told that by somebody within the company, like, man, you're even too high. So let's just say that Anthem thinks highly of this TNA product, and they're not getting rid of it anytime soon unless somebody comes in and makes a ridiculous offer. So yeah, man, a lot going on there. I want to get to the chat. Here. Okay. Let's see. Io says, I agree mostly on Scott's take. Agree to Mike that he probably couldn't reveal much behind the scenes with AEW, but there was definitely restrictions. Yeah. in Io's opinion, the plan was for Omega to drop it at BFG. I think that's what everybody wanted. I just don't think that AEW wanted that. I don't. So, but I don't think that Omega was going to lose that title while he was still AEW champion. And he didn't lose the title until, because he didn't lose the title at All Out. Remember, that title was not dropped at All Out. He defeated Christian Cage at All Out while Christian Cage was the TNA World Champion. Billy says Kenny couldn't lose to Josh, or it would have undermined the Hangman feud. Io says, to clarify, some of us TNA fans glad we had Omega, but we expected more of the relationship, and Tony should have treated the brand more like NXT is doing. Yeah, that's exactly the point. And that's the one thing that people on the outside looking in just can't wrap their heads around. It's like, why did the TNA product want to be treated with dignity? It's like they don't understand the importance of being treated with dignity. And that's what's happening with the NXT show. They're being treated with dignity. Billy said TNA's tag champs are featured weekly on Dynamite, the Good Brothers, and they won nearly all their matches. People just have their minds made up regardless of the facts. Yeah. So yeah, the Good Brothers were on there all the time, but I guess we wanted more of a crossover, kind of what we're seeing right now. Lucha says Private Party lost tag match. Yeah, that was a triple threat match, and they didn't actually get pinned. And then Lucha says the Deanna appearance really ticked me off. Forbidden Door was that weekend or in like a week, and they could have easily done a TNA talent versus an AEW talent for an ROH belt. It was really just, that was a tryout match for Deanna. That's all that was. And Billy goes on to say, the main issue I had with Scott as an authority figure is he always got over on the heels and made them look like idiots. Yes, he did. I had a similar issue. All right, moving on. Let's take a look at some upcoming TNA events and how ticket sales are shaping up. We've got some numbers from the great Dobby the Brain Heenan, and it looks like the shows are selling pretty well overall. So for the August 30th Emergence event in Louisville, for floor seats, we have 290 out of 297 floor seats have been sold, so which is 97.6% sold out. And then the following night's TV taping in Louisville is at 83.5% sold. Of course, caveat, general admission, there's general admission seating too. So it looks like they're going to be doing very well. I don't know how many GA seats are available on those venues, but we can safely say that that Emergence is looking pretty good. Now, but we go to San Antonio and it's still not. It's still not looking that good. Keep in mind they do have a general admission presence there. But so in San Antonio on September 13th, so we're less than a month away, Victory Road has sold 417 out of 899 total tickets. But with general admission, that's a big venue. They could probably get up to 15. So, but out of the seats that we're able to count, it's 46% sold. And then the next night's TV taping is 29% sold. So, not looking great, but I think they're going to hit the ground running once this Emergence show is over and to go get out there and sling some tickets. And hopefully they will fill the place up, because that should be a pretty big event, because that's the last TNA Plus special before we head into Bound for Glory. And I'm hoping that's where we crown Joe Hendry as the number one contender. I hope they don't just name him on television. I hope they make him go through some shit and he gets it. In fact, I would like to see Joe Hendry defeat Kazarian at Victory Road and become the number one contender. I think that's the way to go. Now, looking forward to Spartanburg, September 27, 28. That's still, we're a month and a half out. So Spartanburg, it's we're about 30% sold for night one and 38% sold for night two. And then Bound for Glory is doing pretty good so far, actually. So Bound for Glory, October 26th in Detroit, one of the TNA's biggest shows of the year, sitting at 57.9% sold with 433 out of 748 floor seats sold. Now, keep in mind, general admission could take this up to 2,500 seats, but you can't count general admission seats. So, but if you're looking at it, 57.9% sold. 433 out of 748. But if you look at it, with the idea that a lot of seats are being like, there's way more general admission than there are floor seats. They're probably sitting in around close to 1,000 tickets sold. I bet, maybe like 800 already. That's what I'm thinking. If you just go based off of these averages. And then the next night, TV taping isn't selling as well. Yeah, they've only sold a couple hundred tickets for the next night. I think that they will fill up for Bound for Glory. And but as per usual for the next night, and keep in mind the next night is on a Sunday, and that's typically harder for TNA to sell tickets. I think a lot of people that are there for on Saturday will get comped to be there on Sunday, and then they will still fill the place up. But it'll be about 65% of what they did the night before. That's typically how those things go. But Bound for Glory is looking really good, man. I think they should really be excited about Bound for Glory. Billy's got a good comment here. He said, I found Scott talking about new regulations in Canada about 30% of streaming content being Canadian was interesting, and how MLP fills a void. Yeah. He did talk about Crave Online, the streaming service up there. And I saw somebody else on Twitter saying that he heard Crave Online was going to be where they're going too. So I think what they could do is like double dip with Crave and Fight TV, where they do the pay-per-views on Fight, and then have a week, and then just chop it up and do weekly TV or monthly TV or whatever on a streaming service like Crave. I think that would be fun. And he said that they'll probably do something in 2025, that they're going to do the October stuff. So it very much looks like the October pay-per-views are, and he goes PLEs. He's all in on that PLE terminology. But the October pay-per-view, the back-to-back pay-per-views, it very much looks like it is a TV show pilot. And that Triller, aka Fight, is hosting. So there you go. Hold on. So bring back the triple threat revolver and have Joe Hendry win that. Yeah, that would be cool. I think I would just like to see him finally get his victory over Kazarian. That's what I'm thinking. Some might poo-poo these numbers, but for us knowing jack shit about what's going to happen at these events, I'd still say it's at least minimally impressive. Yeah, look, I don't think they're doing bad. I just think that if you take a look at it as a whole, Victory Road has already sold more tickets than Emergence, but you have to take a look at the denominator. The denominator there is important, right? And so it's like what their expectations are. Their expectations are 1,500 because that's what they set it up for. And they're like maybe halfway there. So let's push them. Let's push them to get there. Billy says they have some high price tickets at BFG. I bet money for the house is larger than Slammiversary. Yeah, so there was way less people at Rebellion than Slammiversary, but they had a similar gate. I bet Bound for Glory does the biggest gate of the year for TNA.